What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Matt. Today, I'm actually here without my co-host, Kieran, pretty early in the morning, and I've just been doing a lot of thinking, and I want to get some stuff off my chest about some stuff that I saw at the end of the first round and what I would like to see from certain teams moving into the offseason. So we'll start things out last night with the Bucks Pacers game, and obviously we all know the Pacers came out, knocked the Bucks out. The Bucks didn't have Giannis; they had a hobbled Damian Lillard, and Chris Middleton was pretty hobbled to be fair as well. Chris has been dealing with some injuries for how long now? So I feel like it was kind of unfair to assume that the Bucks were going to come into Indiana and dethrone or beat the Pacers, however you want to put it. Just without your two or without your best player, I should say, and your second best player coming off an Achilles injury, which he probably shouldn't have even been playing. Um, he just seemed to step slow, kind of settled for jump shots, didn't really attack the lane. So I feel like I'm not going to say the Bucks set Dame up for failure because obviously it's your season as a matter of fact. So you want Dame to play, and obviously you would have loved to have Giannis play, but I think Giannis not playing shows really how hurt he was, and that the Bucks were trying to be smart and not force Giannis back because you don't want to have one of those things that starts with a calf injury and then turns into something like a Kevin Durant or a Kobe Bryant where you mess up your Achilles and like I guess with Kevin Durant, the rare exception that you come back at the same level um and continue to perform at that high. But that did a number on Kobe and it's done a number on tons of athletes throughout different professional sporting leagues. So I think the Bucks did definitely play it smart with resting Giannis. And I think they're just going to look towards roster reconstruction, probably move towards the next season. So, with that being said, if you were the Bucks, what are some moves that you want to make? And I think the big thing is you got to start with saying see you later to Brook Lopez. That dude is so freaking one-dimensional. He is a rim protector and he can knock down shots sometimes. Brook Lopez kind of has that, I feel like, title that he's a good defender when in reality, that dude might be the slowest player in the whole NBA. There's a very big difference between a good and elite defender versus a good and elite rim protector. A player like a Rudy Gobert is a really good defender. A player like Anthony Davis is a really good defender. A player like, like I was just saying, a Brook Lopez who just kind of camps the paint, doesn't really stretch out onto the perimeter, and when he does, he gets burned, to be quite frank. So I think that Brook Lopez needs to go. I think his time in the NBA is slowly but surely coming to an end. He's just getting up there in age. And I personally think the man's done enough. I don't know what else he's trying to accomplish. He's won a ring. He's the Brooklyn Nets all-time leading scorer, which is freaking insane, I think. Because when I think Brooklyn Nets, I don't think Brook Lopez. Like I think Deron Williams. I thought he would. I thought I don't know, maybe like Paul Pierce. Okay, never mind. I'm just talking crazy now. But anyways, another thing that you want to do if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, I feel like, is look on from moving away from Bobby Portis. He's played really, really well these last couple of years, and I would say his value is probably the highest it's ever going to be. But you need defense, and Bobby Portis is a cone on defense. He's a great offensive player. You get him the ball, you get him that mid post touch, that short corner touch, and he's just going to do that little turnaround. He's going to nail his shot 9 out of 10 times. But come down and say you're playing a team like the Pacers, who are very dominant on the offensive side of the ball, and you need players to play defense and step up. Bobby's not that guy. Bobby's not going to do that. Damian Lillard's not going to do that. And Brook Lopez isn't going to do that. And you had three of those guys on the floor last night getting fried by TJ McConnell, Tyrese Halliburton, and frickin' Obi Toppin. That's just, it seems so fake that we're saying TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin beat Damian Lillard, Brook Lopez, and Bobby Portis. Like that's super strange to me. And I'm not gonna just sit here and rip the Bucks the whole time. The Indiana Pacers played absolutely phenomenal. They game planned the Bucks super well. Or I wouldn't even say they game planned the Bucks super well. The Bucks just weren't really making shots. Shots weren't falling like they usually do. But TJ McConnell had the best game of his life. I would say probably the most important game of his life. He ended up coming out dropping a near double double, and the Bucks came out with the intent to let TJ McConnell shoot the ball because he is a notoriously bad shooter, and I think that was the right game plan going into things. But TJ McConnell on 22 minutes scored 20 points, two boards, nine assists, had four steals. was the highest in the plus minus and was the best player in the series, or not in the series, in the game, with a plus 22 in the box plus minus, shot 77% from the field and shot 2 for 2 from three. And the Bucks just let TJ McConnell do whatever he wanted, whether that was distributing the ball, whether that was shooting the ball, running the offense. They just had no answer for TJ McConnell. And I wouldn't really expect Doc Rivers or the Bucks coaching staff to come out and be like, okay, TJ McConnell, we have to do this. When he gets short corner, we got to double and force the ball out of his hands, rotate our defense. Like, whatever. This is just one of those things that it's a home crowd. Your role players play a lot better in front of a home crowd, and that's what they got. TJ McConnell, like I said, I already gave you guys his stat line. Andrew Nemhard had 14 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, a couple steals, and a block. Obi Toppin had 21 points on 24 minutes, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block, and shot 53% from the field. Pascal Siakam, 19, 7, and 4. Tyrese had 17, 6, and 10. So all of these guys, and even Aaron Nesmith, you had 6 players in double figures who 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are probably considered your role players. You expect double-digit points out of Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton every single night they step foot on the floor. But yeah, Miles Turner, he came out and had an absolutely horrendous game. As a matter of fact, 5 points, 5 rebounds, and an assist. Shot 16% from the field, which is just absolutely disgusting. He was, to be quite frank, the Bucks killer this game. And I feel like that the Bucks went in with a plan against Miles Turner, and then just having him not play and having Obi Toppin kind of come in and take over that role, I think screwed the whole thing over for the Bucks. But kind of moving on from that series, I guess we could say, is we'll move down to that last game that happened last night. I feel like there was a lot of things that were said throughout this series, and I think this was probably the best series of the first round. But the big thing for me is Jalen Brunson played phenomenal. Jalen Brunson, I feel like, has been a top 5 player so far throughout the playoffs, and he's proved that he can be a number 1 on a championship team. People are forgetting that Julius Randle has not played basketball in like 4 freaking months, dude. And I know he has the reputation as a playoff choker, but the name Julius Randle has magnitude, and it's going to draw the defense. He's an all-star. People know who he is. Julius Randle can stretch the floor. So when Julius Randle comes back, that's just going to make the Knicks that much better, I think. Or maybe you could even look at this from a different perspective. Like if you're the New York Knicks, you have Julius Randle, who maybe hasn't necessarily been the most consistent player, but there are teams that could use a Julius Randle like player. Move him off, get some picks. I don't know, add another number 2 to go alongside Jalen Brunson. Like, I don't know, like a Donovan Mitchell or a Devin Booker or something along those lines. Just have somebody else that can score the ball, that can kind of take the load off Jalen Brunson. Dante DiVincenzo played absolutely phenomenal last night, shot over 50% from 3. And that was my prediction earlier in the season. I thought Dante was going to be a really big factor in the Knicks playoff run. I think that that's going to continue. We're going to see that next series when the Knicks play just talking about them, the Pacers. When the Knicks play the Pacers, I'm expecting another big series from Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. And just while I said that name, Josh Hart, he has been probably one of the stories of the back end of the NBA season and into the playoffs, because Josh Hart had 0 triple doubles coming into this year, and then kind of just turned it up into like prime Westbrook, damn near. As we see Josh Hart pulling down 14, 15 boards a night as a forward / guard type of player, which is really impressive. He does all the dirty work. He hustles. He's confident. His teammates trust him. And I just think every team needs a Josh Hart type of player. Just somebody who wants to do the dirty work, who wants to go do the rebounds, who wants to defend the best player, even if they are undersized. Because there are multiple times throughout the series that I saw Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, who are 2 elite defenders, wanting to take on the matchup with Joel Embiid when Isaiah Hartenstein was struggling. And I think that says volume a lot about a team and how much confidence that you have in your 2 players. So, yeah, I think New York's roster construction is really set up really, really well. And then another thing that I would like to see the Knicks do, which I don't know how likely it is becoming because of his March Madness performance and how the Knicks are playing in the playoffs and with the matchup that they have. I think it would be stupid to say the Pacers come out and beat the Knicks, and because I think it's kind of settled. I think we're going to see a Knicks-Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. But we'll say hypothetically the Knicks don't make it past this round, and you're hovering probably around pick 20 to 21, we'll say, give or take. Maybe like 22, 23. I really would have liked to see the New York Knicks pick up a Jared McCain type of player. Um, I think another point guard coming off the bench would be huge for you. I don't think Deuce McBride is the long-term answer as a backup point guard. I think he's serviceable. I think he's a good bridge point guard, and I think he's turned a lot of heads this year. And I think Deuce McBride's going to come out and get a bag from whatever team signs him next. But if you're the New York Knicks, I think you're in really good hands, and I think the basketball mecca of the world is almost back in full effect, and we're going to see them put up a lot of competition with the Boston Celtics over these next 5 years. Tyrese Maxey is something that I also really want to touch on. I've been super high on him, and I've gone to the extent to say that Tyrese should be the face of the Philadelphia 76ers and that they should kind of steer away, not steer away from Joel Embiid, but steer more in the direction and giving Maxey more volume on the offensive side of the ball. Kind of like a Nikola Jokic and a Jamal Murray. I would really like to see that the 76ers go in that direction because I truly believe that Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid could be better than Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray if they play the same way. You stick Joel Embiid and you stick Tyrese Maxey and you just run the two-man game between them all game. Somebody's gonna do something. Whether that be Joel just absolutely body everybody, getting to the line, scoring 60 points, or Tyrese Maxey is going to come out and knock down 9 threes against you or blow right past you. So it's one of those things that I feel like the Sixers really need to look into. And I think it would also help Joel Embiid a lot. Take the pressure off him in the regular season because he's always hurt when it comes time for the playoffs. And we're as NBA fans, like I don't like Joel Embiid. I don't like his foul bait and bullshit. But Joel Embiid's one of the best players in the game right now, and that's what you want to see in the NBA playoffs. So I feel like if the 76ers took a lot of the load management off Joel Embiid and kind of shifted it towards Tyrese Maxey and made him the focal point of the offense, I think that would just pay dividends for the 76ers in general. I think we could possibly see them dethrone the Celtics and become the best team in the East. Maybe that's a hot take, but that's just what I would personally like to see. But back to what I was saying about Tyrese Maxey, he just put up an absolute stinker when the lights were brightest around him. He put up 7 points in those 25 seconds the game before. Everybody was watching Tyrese Maxey. What's he going to do? Is he going to come out and play well? And sure as shit, Tyrese Maxey came out and put up an absolute dud. 42 minutes of play, he had 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and was a -4 in the box score. Shot 33% from the field and shot 1 for 6 from three. He took care of the ball fairly well, which I think that is an expectation from Tyrese Maxey, though. So yeah, moving on to something else in this series, specifically this game, was how well that Buddy Hield played and Nick Batum and Kelly Oubre. They all outplayed Tyrese Maxey. And I know bad games are going to happen in the NBA, but if you're Tyrese Maxey and you're trying to solidify yourself as that guy and who I think should and is a top 5 point guard in the league, you cannot put up a stinker like this when the lights are brightest. It doesn't pay dividends. It doesn't look well on you. It doesn't look good on you. Um, so yeah, I think that is definitely tough for Tyrese Maxey, especially getting outplayed by Buddy Hield. And granted, I know I'm kind of just looking at points here, but Tyrese Maxey played double Buddy Hield's minutes. Buddy Hield had 20 points, 4 boards, and an assist, and was one of the only Sixers that was positive in the box score last night, who was a +12. He shot the ball super well. Was 6 for 10 from the field, 6 for 9 from three. So the efficiency was there for Buddy Hield, and I almost wonder if you were Nick Nurse, why didn't Buddy Hield play a lot earlier, or not earlier in the series, but maybe last game or the game prior? Because I know he struggled in game one. I know that, but campaign and Tobias Harris are not the answer. I'm sorry. Especially Tobias Harris, who, as a matter of fact, in this game, played 29 minutes, did not score once. Took 2 shots, had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and that's all he did. So Tobias Harris was literally just taking up space. And I think if you're Tobias Harris, this dude needs to go. He's going to open up so much money for the 76ers because I think this dude has the worst contract in basketball. I think it's worse than Bradley Beal's, even despite Bradley Beal having that no trade clause. We're finally at the end of Tobias Harris's contract. We're in the 2024-2025 season. Harris will carry the cap hit of $45.8 million, which I believe is higher than Bradley Beal's annual salary. So that is just absolutely disgusting. And in retrospect, I think it's kind of crazy to think the 76ers thought that Tobias Harris was the better fit over Jimmy Butler. But granted, we all knew that right when it happened. But paying Tobias Harris $186 million over the course of 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, that was just a recipe for disaster. So I really think that the 76ers are going to make a big splash in free agency this year, or maybe they'll make a big trade. I'm not necessarily sure, but I think the Sixers are going to be a really, really, really good team next year, and we finally are going to see them take that final step, I guess you could say, in the process. Just kind of moving on now. I guess we're gonna just kind of look at the games tonight. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Orlando Magic, and so far in this series, it's just been whoever the home team is, that is who comes out and is victorious. So if you are the Orlando Magic, or if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers here, I should say, what are you gonna want to do? I think if you lose tonight, you go out home and you close it and you win it and you just take on Boston, right? But I think if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, you really want to make that statement. You want to go out. You want to prove, hey, we're gonna beat you. We want Boston, right? And I don't think they stand a chance against Boston. Maybe they'll get a game against Boston. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I would look for the Cavs to win this game tonight. I don't think Paulo is mature enough. I don't think he's ready to take on the responsibility of being that true number one at this level. I think next year we're going to see Paulo take that another jump, and I think Paulo could really be a top 15, top 10 player in the league if the Magic continue to construct young talent and the right roster around him. But as of now, I think the dude's just a little bit young, and I think this season has paid great dividends for the Magic. They all get the playoff experience. They've made their mark on the NBA. Jalen Suggs is coming out. Uh, he's finally developing into more of a player that you would like to see drafted in the top five. And I think next year we'll see Jalen Suggs take even an even bigger leap. Sorry about that stuttering there, but I think we'll see Jalen Suggs take that jump to being a 15 points per game scorer. And obviously, we all know he's a lead on defense. And I think Jalen Suggs could be an all NBA defender next year, all NBA first team defender. So if you're the Orlando Magic, what do you do in the offseason? I think you got to go out and you got to get a point guard, whether that be obviously every team or a majority of these teams, their dream point guard this offseason is Trae Young. And if you are the Magic, I don't know if you have the pieces to get a Trae Young to Orlando, but if you can't necessarily go out and get a Trae Young to Orlando, you could look at a player possibly like Alonzo Ball. And I know that's really, really risky just considering all the injuries he's had, but Lonzo Ball changes how good your team is from when we saw him play last. Another option you can maybe look at to have veteran presence and somebody who's been around the league, who's seen every form of competition from game one all the way to the finals. Kyle Lowry, I don't really think they'd go in that direction. And if they did, he'd just kind of be coaching up Suggs, coaching up Anthony Black, just developing their young guys. But what I could really see is I could see Man, I don't really know. This is actually really, really tough, but I could see. Mm, I don't want to say James Harden because I think James Harden is content in LA, and I feel like we're seeing him genuinely enjoy being on a team. So, but I think if you're the Magic, it'd be nice to go out and get a James Harden. Be nice to trade for Trae Young, something along those lines. But yeah, if you're the Magic, you need a point guard. You need that true person who can distribute the ball, who can get it to Paulo so he doesn't have to sit and dribble the ball for 12 seconds of the shot clock, then attack and then do something. Because that's just not recipe for winning basketball at the next level. Moving on to the last matchup of the day, and I know this is a little bit of a shorter episode, but I was just doing a lot of thinking and I wanted to get something out there. So Clippers Mavericks, I would fully expect Luka to come out on an absolute heater tonight. I'm expecting a 40 point, maybe even a 50-point triple double from Luka. He's just struggled really, really tough throughout this first round, and we're not seeing a typical Luka performance through a set stretch of games. And without Kawhi Leonard being there for the Clippers, you don't have your best player. And I feel like you can't rely on James Harden because as we saw last game, he put up a freaking stinker. And I know he was he played really well for the first 4 games, but I don't think that can continue throughout the whole playoffs. And Paul George, a lot of these younger guys grew up watching Paul George. They all remember him, the Paul George from Indiana, dunking on Chris Anderson, playing against LeBron James, going toe to toe with the Heatles. So a lot of people just forget Paul George is freaking old, dude. Paul George is going into year 14. I want to say year 13. Yeah, it's going to be going into year 15 this next year. The dude's going to be 35 years old. That is a really, really old player, and that's borderline unrealistic, I would say, to expect a 34-year-old this year, Paul George, to carry your team without Kawhi Leonard past Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, who are probably the best backcourt in the NBA. I don't really think there's any debate there, but maybe even one of the best duos in the NBA. So if you're the Clippers, it was a good season. You got to get Kawhi healthy, but what do you do in come the off season? I don't really know, man. I think this team, what they have right now could get it done. Maybe that's getting another piece coming off the bench. Maybe I don't, maybe it's moving on from Russ or something. Like I'm a really big Russ guy. I really am. And you hear it. You hear Paul George talk about how great of a teammate Russell Westbrook is. You hear all the guys around the Clippers organization say how much they love Russell Westbrook. But Russell Westbrook hasn't contributed to winning basketball when it's counted in the playoffs. He has looked like Lakers Russell Westbrook throughout these whole playoffs. And that is not the player that they brought in. They wanted to bring an energy guy in who's going to go get boards, who's going to push, and who's going to up the pace of the game. And sure, Russ has done that, but the dude has just been a little bit too trigger happy, maybe you could say. I guess he's been shooting the ball a little bit too much, maybe. I don't know. But he's averaging 6.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, and 1.8 assists through these playoffs. And that's just that's not okay. Through these games so far, he's out the first during game one, he had 13, 4, and 4, which the Clippers kind of just came out and piss pounded the Mavericks from the get-go. James Harden and Ivica Zubac were just playing really well, and the Mavericks couldn't really buy a shot. So yes, Russ played. I wouldn't say great. Russ played pretty well there. And game two, Russ had 7 points, 9 boards, and 3 assists, but took 10 shots and shot the ball only 20% from the field. So, and then we go on. They just continue to drop. Game three, he had a point, 3 rebounds. I don't see any assists. 5 points, 3 boards, 6 points, 5 boards. So, yeah, Russell Westbrook, I think you just got to use him for pace. You got to ask him to take less shots. And if you're the Clippers tonight, James Harden or Paul George needs to be on the floor at all times, or maybe even a Norman Powell. You just need a shooter on the floor. That is how you're going to push this game to 7. You're going to get it back to LA and have a shot at winning this series. Do I think that is likely? No. Do I think it happens? Yes. But if it does go to game 7 and we are back in LA, I think there's a chance we see Kawhi Leonard play. And I think that the Clippers win the series, to be quite frank, if it goes to 7. But tonight, I am looking for Dallas to close it. And I think that it's going to be a Luka masterclass tonight. Kyrie's going to be great as a supporting role. Daniel Gafford is going to play borderline flawless like he does every night on the offensive side of the ball. And I just think it's going to be a Mavericks masterclass. With that being said, I know this is a little bit of a shorter episode, but I just want to throw something out there for you guys. Just been thinking a lot about the second round so far and just kind of the back end of this first round and what we've seen so far in the playoffs. So I do appreciate you guys tuning in as always. And if you are new here, drop a like, subscribe, coming out with really good NBA content. Almost trying to make it more of a daily thing, every other day thing. That's my goal here, but I know we've been lacking as of late. But yeah, bear with us. Peace out, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one.